everyone, welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un slammed the annual joint military exercise between South Korea and the United States that kicked off this week, calling it a will to ignite war. His comments come a day after the Korean government vowed to rebuild trust with the North. U.S. President Donald Trump sat down with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelenskyy and said Washington will help Europe in providing security for Ukraine. Trump also hinted that he's working to arrange a three-way meeting with Putin and Zelenskyy. Hamas has reportedly agreed to a new ceasefire deal to end the war in Gaza, put forward by Egypt and Qatar. Eyes are now on what the response from Israel will be. We begin with North Korea, where the regime's leader slammed the annual summertime military exercise between South Korea and the United States that began on Monday. Kim Jong-un also said his regime needs to rapidly expand its nuclear armament. Our Pyeongyang starts us off.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un accused the United States and South Korea of heightening the risk of conflict through their joint military exercise and stressed that Pyongyang needed to rapidly expand its nuclear armament. His remarks, carried by the KCNA state media on Tuesday, coincided with the start of the annual Ulji Freedom Shield. According to the report, Kim delivered the message while inspecting the Choehyun, North Korea's new 5,000-ton warship at Nampo shipyard. He said the close military coordination between the United States and South Korea, along with their displays of force and nuclear elements, demonstrated a will to provoke war. He added that such actions undermine both peace and the broader security environment in the region. Kim also went on to say that the deteriorating security environment compels North Korea to push for swift, fundamental shifts in its military strategy and to significantly expand its nuclear weapon stockpile. He also pointed to fear as the core of his deterrence strategy, saying the most reliable way to manage and maintain regional security and safeguard national sovereignty was to make enemies afraid of Pyongyang's power. Against this backdrop, Kim emphasized the Navy's role in strengthening North Korea's defense, saying it will soon become a reliable force in the nation's nuclear domain. Photos released by the KCNA show Kim visiting the Situation Room and living quarters on the Choehyun. Kim reportedly instructed that the warship move on to performance evaluations in October. While Pyongyang has long denounced the joint exercise as invasive rehearsals and at times countered with weapon tests, Seoul and Washington maintain the drills are strictly defensive. Pyeongyang, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the Korean government says it aims to rebuild trust across the border, in line with President Lee Jae-myung's toughest message last week towards North Korea. Our Oh Soo-young explains more.
Restoring trust will be Seoul's policy towards North Korea under the Lee Jae-myung administration. On Monday, Unification Ministry spokesperson Koo Byung-sam announced the government will shift its approach, effectively scrapping the so-called unification doctrine of the previous administration. This comes after the president's Liberation Day address last week, where he made three commitments: to respect the North Korean regime, no unification through subjugating the North, and no hostile acts. Spokesperson Koo said this marks a clear departure from former President Yoon Suk-yeol's unification doctrine, which critics say presented subjugation of the North. Unveiled on Liberation Day last year, the now-abolished doctrine called for a unified Republic of Korea by encouraging grassroots calls for freedom and democracy by North Korean citizens. Speaking at a parliamentary committee on foreign affairs and unification, Unification Minister Chung Dong-young on Monday called for trust-building measures through reviving military communication and the 2018 deal on de-escalating border tensions with the North. However, he said inter-Korean dialogue might take time to materialize. At the same committee session, Foreign Minister Cho Hyun said Lee's new dovish policy will be anchored in close coordination with the United States. Pursuing inter-Korean dialogue alongside US-North Korea negotiations, the minister said Seoul and Washington will reaffirm a unified stance on North Korea and create conditions for renewed dialogue. He added Seoul envisions a phased approach to denuclearization, a gradual process of freezing, reducing, then dismantling the North's nuclear program. South Korea will also seek cooperation from China in encouraging denuclearization and regional stability while responding firmly to unilateral actions in the West Sea. With Russia, Seoul will continue dialogue to protect Korean citizens and businesses, but Cho reiterated strong opposition to Moscow's ongoing military cooperation with Pyongyang, calling it a direct security threat. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Over in the United States, President Donald Trump met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy at the White House and said Washington will be involved in providing security for Ukraine. The comment came as European leaders traveled to Washington in support of Ukraine and in hopes of a peace deal. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
During a summit with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump said that the U.S. would be involved in ensuring Ukraine's future security.
There'll be a lot of help. When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
The Trump administration has so far avoided deep involvement in the Ukraine war, focusing instead on supplying arms indirectly through NATO. However, Trump's latest remarks, which did not rule out the possibility of U.S. troop deployments, suggest a shift in Washington's security strategy. Trump also reiterated his intention to push for a peace agreement immediately, rather than first seeking a temporary ceasefire. Meanwhile, Zelenskyy stressed that Russia must stop the war, calling for a trilateral meeting between himself, Trump, and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
War, and we are ready for trilateral, as President said. This is a good signal about trilateral. I think this is very good. Thank you.
Zelenskyy added that all these sensitive issues, including territorial issues, would be discussed at the highest level in a trilateral summit. In response, President Trump said that he expected a trilateral summit with President Putin and Zelenskyy to take place, calling it a matter of when, not if. Trump also suggested that such a summit could bring an end to Russia's 3-year invasion of Ukraine. Meanwhile, European and NATO leaders also took part in a meeting with President Trump at the White House on Monday. There, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the much-needed security for Ukraine would be possible after Monday's meeting.
A historic step, actually, could come out of this meeting in terms of security for Ukraine and security in Europe.
Unlike the more tense February meeting, Monday's summit between Trump and Zelenskyy unfolded in a friendlier atmosphere. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, in the Middle East, Palestinian militant group Hamas has agreed to a new ceasefire proposal put forward by Egypt and Qatar, the mediators in the ongoing Gaza negotiations. According to the AFP on Monday, a senior Hamas official announced on social media that the group has accepted the proposal, while another source confirmed that the group had agreed to the proposal without requesting any changes. The proposal calls for a 60-day ceasefire, and during that period, Hamas would release 10 Israeli hostages, along with 18 bodies, while Israel would free some Palestinian prisoners. According to Times of Israel, Israel has also received the proposal, but is yet to officially respond. The U.S. decision to expand its scope of tariffs on steel and aluminum imports has sparked concerns here in South Korea. And this week, the Lee administration unveiled key details of its economic policy that it plans to achieve over the next 5 years. For more on this, we're joined by Professor Park Min-jung, a professor at the Department of Business Administration at Kumo National Institute of Technology. Professor Park, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
So the U.S. recently expanded the range of products subject to steel and aluminum tariffs. Now, this raised concerns about their potential impact on Korean companies. What's your take on this? How should companies prepare for these new measures?
Yeah, the recent expansion of U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum products is in the worst for Korean companies, especially those in Korean sectors rely heavily on stable and cost, especially in those in Korean industries such as automotive, shipbuilding, and construction. These sectors actually, as I said, heavily rely on stable and cost-efficient access to these materials, and higher tariffs could drive production costs and reduce competitiveness in global markets. So what Korean firms need to recognize is that this is not one party and one-time policy move. It reflects further protectionist trends in U.S. trade policy. Therefore, companies from now on must adopt a dual strategy. First, diversify export markets and raw material sources to reduce reliance on the U.S. And also, secondly, shift toward higher value-added steel and aluminum products that are less vulnerable to tariff pressures. And additionally, the Korean policymakers should work closely with U.S. counterparts and international trade bodies to negotiate reduced damages or some exemptions. So in the long-run perspective, companies that emphasize innovation and energy efficiency and sustainability in their production processes will be best positioned to weather these policy shifts.
Right, and on the domestic economic front, President Lee Jae-myung has pledged to lift South Korea's benchmark Kospi index to 5,000 points during his 5-year term. How realistic is this goal?
Yeah, recently President Lee's pledge to raise the Kospi up to 5,000 is highly ambitious and has significant symbolic value for the market. It could serve as a confidence booster for investors, but translating this into reality within only 5-year term will be very challenging. So the Kospi is not only influenced by only domestic economies and domestic policies, but also influenced by various sectors such as capital flows and geopolitical risks or some of interest-related trends. So to approach this target realistically, now Korea will need to enhance corporate earnings through industrial restructuring and digital transformation and financial market reforms that improve transparency and governance. Attracting more foreign investment will also be critical now, so as it will be the development of future industries like semiconductors or AI and some of green technologies. So maybe if these structural reforms are implemented effectively during the President Lee's duration, the index could move closer or up to 5,000 Kospi mark. However, more realistically, the investors and policymakers alike should view this more as a long-term aspiration, reflecting economic direction rather than a guaranteed short-term outcome. So it is very important to time this on and to focus on the quality and sustainability of growth than to simply chase a numerical target.
I see. And the EU administration is also seeking ways to develop sectors such as artificial intelligence, aiming to achieve a potential economic growth rate of 3%. What are your thoughts on this target?
The administration's emphasis on AI these days very heavily, related sectors to achieve a potential growth rate of 3% is both timely and strategically important. Korea's economy is facing structural challenges, an aging population, and also stagnant productivity and slowing capital investment, which are very constricting growth. So AI can serve as a transformative driver by enhancing efficiency or automating complex processes in a lot of industries, enabling advanced manufacturing and opening up entirely new industries in healthcare or finance or some of logistics. But technology alone will not be enough. So to realistically achieve 3% of potential growth, Korea must complement AI adoption with broader ecosystem reforms, including regulatory barriers like a lot of flexibility to encourage innovation and also heavy investment in digital infrastructure and comprehensive education and training programs to build a skilled workforce. Collaboration between government, large corporations, and some startups will be essential to create a robust innovation ecosystem. So the key will be ensuring that productivity gains are shared broadly in less industries and not concentrated only in few sectors.
All right, Professor Park, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
President Lee Jae-myung will discuss the future of the K-pop industry on Arirang's special program K-pop The Next Chapter, which airs on Wednesday. According to the presidential office, President Lee will be joined on the panel by Muggy, writer and director of the Netflix hit K-pop Demon Hunters, and members of the K-pop girl group Twice. They will share ideas on further expanding K-pop's global reach and explore policy directions to support its growth. You can catch the full program this Wednesday at 5 p.m. Korea time. Seoul is adding a new mode of public transport, this time on water. The city's new river ferry system, the Hangang Bus, is set to officially launch this September. Our Park Hyo-bin was on board.
In a city driven by cars, buses, and subways, this one moves differently. No rails, no tires, just water. This is the Hangang Bus, Seoul's new ferry-based public transport, designed to connect key spots along the Hangang River.
This ferry just left Apgujeong and is now heading to Yeouido. The view from here is stunning. You can see the river, bridges, and tall buildings, all in one frame.
Ahead of its official launch in September, the city began offering early test rides for residents to experience the new service firsthand. As the ferry glides across the water, slicing through the breeze with the skyline in full view, smiles spread among passengers on board.
It was really fun riding the Hangang Bus. It made me feel happy.
It's very refreshing. I'd say the view is very good. Excellent.
I've been on ferries abroad, but seeing one as public transport in Seoul is amazing. The view is beautiful. It feels completely different being on the river instead of just looking at it.
Step inside and it feels far from your typical subway or bus. Panoramic windows and ceiling skylights flood the interior with natural light. Nearly 200 seats are paired with foldable tray tables, and there's even a cafe corner where passengers can grab a quick snack or drink. The ferry is scheduled to operate 2 main routes starting in September. The Hangang Bus operates a 75-minute one-way route linking 7 stops from west to eastern Seoul and returns along the same path. For faster travel, a 54-minute express route is also available. What's more, the ferry runs on a hybrid propulsion system, cutting carbon emissions, and it has passed all required safety tests and certifications. A one-way ticket costs 3,000 won, or about $2 for adults, with transfer discounts available through the city's transit card system. Whether you're commuting, sightseeing, or simply taking a break from the city's rush, the Hangang Bus offers a moment to slow down and see Seoul from a whole new perspective. Park Hyo-bin, Arirang News.
Now let's take a look at some stories from around the world with our Choi-ji. Good morning, Ji.
Good morning, Eun-ji.
So, Ji, starting in Europe, Spain and Portugal continue to battle wildfires. Give us the updates.
Right. Several large wildfires are still burning in Spain and neighboring Portugal amidst a blistering heat wave. The worst wildfires on record in Spain spread to the southern slopes of the Picos de Europa mountains on Monday, and parts of the Camino de Santiago pilgrimage route were closed. Spanish troops are on the front lines with 1,900 soldiers deployed alongside aerial support to assist firefighters. In northwestern Spain, a firefighter died when his truck overturned on a steep forest road on Sunday, adding to 3 earlier fatalities in Spain. Meanwhile, across the border in Portugal, another firefighter was killed in a road accident on the same day, increasing Portugal's fire-related death toll to 2. The fires have burned over 3,444 square kilometers of land in Spain and over 2,160 square kilometers in Portugal as of Monday. These wildfires have been fueled by a 16-day heat wave, which saw temperatures as high as 45 degrees Celsius. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi is in New Delhi for a 2-day visit, his first in more than 3 years, aimed at improving frozen ties with India. On Monday, Wang Yi held discussions with India's External Affairs Minister, Subramanyam Jaishankar. Jaishankar emphasized the need for a stable border between the two countries to serve as a foundation for stronger bilateral ties. India and China have had a prolonged period of tension following the deadly clash along their Himalayan border in 2020. The two sides also initiated the 24th round of special representatives talks on the boundary issue. Meanwhile, a U.S. trade delegation canceled its planned visit to New Delhi on Monday, citing uncertainty regarding the timeline for concluding a bilateral trade deal. In the United States, cable news channel MSNBC is undergoing a major transformation, announcing it will rebrand as MS Now, short for My Source News, Opinion, and The World. It will follow the upcoming spin-off from NBC Universal. As part of the rebrand, the network will also no longer use the iconic NBC peacock logo. MS Now's President Rebecca Cutler said that the shift represents a change to chart an independent course separate from the NBC legacy. In Sweden's northern city of Kiruna, the 113-year-old Kiruna church is being transported on rolling platforms to a new location 5 kilometers away. The 2-day journey starting Tuesday is part of a decades-long effort to preserve the town from ground subsidence caused by the expansion of iron ore mining. The city of Kiruna is situated atop the world's largest underground iron ore mine. Along with the 600-ton wooden church building, some 3,000 homes and 6,000 residents are being relocated.
Those of us in the capital woke up to wet roads, and there will be more rain through this morning. Then this afternoon, we could see sudden showers in inland areas with 5 to 40 millimeters in the forecast. Now, the winds will be quite strong as well, especially in the East Coast region, so please stay safe. The rain and showers will bring up the humidity, making it feel quite muggy again. Currently, heat wave alerts remain in place nationwide, with the exception of some parts of Gangwon-do province. However, heat wave warnings continue for the east of Gangwon-do and southern parts of Korea, with an expected high of above 35 degrees Celsius this afternoon. And Gyeongju will be sweltering hot at 36 degrees this afternoon. Seoul will be getting up to 31 degrees Celsius. Now, it looks like heat wave and tropical nights will continue through the rest of the week and into the weekend, with a chance of rain in the capital area tomorrow morning.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.